Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. And welcome, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are, be it at night, being a day. I don't know. We're worldwide, so it could be anytime, really. And we've got a great guest for you today. We're going to be talking about, let's see, a historical fantasy, which is how I describe my early life, because I don't want anybody to know the truth. And so it's historical, yes, but it's a fantasy. And Steffanie Costigan is her name. And Steffanie, is that right? It's a historical fantasy?
Yeah, you got it right.
Or is it a fantasy? Oh, we'll go with the first one. That's better. So how are you today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I can't complain at all, thank you. I have a show, it's called Positive Talk, so I have to be in a good mood all the time. It's kind of a rule. And so where are you right now? Where are you located?
Well, I live in Canada, but currently I'm actually in the US visiting my brother.
Oh, very nice. And so what part of Canada are you from?
I'm from Alberta.
Oh, beautiful area here. I haven't been there yet. I'm looking to go there. And so what part of the States does your brother live in?
He lives in Salt Lake, Utah.
Oh, I have a bunch of people and followers and all kinds of interesting people that are in Salt Lake City. A beautiful town, by the way.
It is, yeah.
Except in late February, early March, when the snow has been on the ground for 5 months and it's kind of dirty.
Ugh.
So anyway, so you've written a book, and it is a fantasy novel, or no, historical fantasy. That's it. It is what it was. So describe to me what it means to be an historical fantasy.
So a historical fantasy, it's just a fantasy, but it has elements of history within it. Like for example, I don't know if you've ever seen like Outlander.
Sure.
That's like a historic fantasy because they taken a lot of history and implemented within the story, but it's also like a fantasy, like something that doesn't normally occur.
Kind of like Princess Bride.
Yeah. Well, not exactly.
Well, okay. And so you have centered, first of all, let's talk about you. When did you decide to start writing?
So apparently I started writing, my parents tell me when I was 3 years old. I would do I can't say that word, hieroglyphics, whatever, on the
Sorry, kid,
wall.
can't help you.
Yeah. But I used to draw stories all over the walls.
Oh, I'll bet you that made them happy.
There was nothing they could do to stop me apparently, because I would just magically pull out markers everywhere.
Oh, and especially when the babysitter came over, and that was really time for you to do that because your parents would be prepared, a babysitter wouldn't be prepared.
Exactly.
And so, do you remember the first time that you got into writing, and what was it about? Was it children's stories? Was it fantasy? What did you write about?
I remember being a little girl and grabbing a children's book. I think it was like 101 Dalmatians, something like that. Putting it down, grabbing paper and folding it to make it look like a book, and I would copy the letters from the book onto my pretend book.
Oh, see, now I do it the old-fashioned way. I would just bend the paper and just pretend that there was writing on it, rather than go through all that work. But actually, it taught you how to write too.
Yeah, no, and I just love doing the illustration. I love drawing a lot too as a kid.
Do you still do that? And was your illustration skill part of the book?
Well, yeah, I've been doing illustrations for Land of the Dragon since I was 12. I started writing this book at the age of 12, and I haven't stopped until publication. But yeah, I've been doing tons of illustrations. At the end, I made a huge kind of booklet for my designer of how I wanted the cover to be. So I made this big booklet explaining what each detail, because it's very symbolic, this book. There's a lot of symbolism woven without it throughout it. And the cover has a lot of symbolism as well.
Oh, that is so cool. I'm looking at your website, by the way, and one of the things you have the characters in the book,
Mm-hmm.
but they are real people.
Um,
Are they friends or family or
no. So, the person I got to design my website is from Wallaby Designs. Because my original one, I had my drawing illustrations on there. They grabbed my drawing illustrations and created like AI looking ones that were similar to my illustrations and put it on the website.
these are AI?
Well, my website ones, not in my book, just the website.
Right, because I'm looking at your website now. The website, by the way, is called landofthedragon.ca.
.com
And
was taken.
I'm sorry.
I know.
Really?
Yeah, someone's holding it hostage. They're not even using it, but they're like, have a huge head of cash, like, we'll sell it to you for like millions or whatever. And I'm like, holy cow, no.
Yeah, I know how that goes. In 2003, when in those days, domains weren't really an issue. But a guy got positivetalkradio.net, and now to this day, it's now 21 years later, he wants $2,500 for it.
He wants to go inside. He's crying.
Sorry, my son stepped in with
Oh,
the
that's okay.
cat. Sweetie, take the cat and go out, okay? Mama's busy.
What's your son's name?
My son's name is Tiankum. We call him Tank for short.
Hey, Tank.
Hey, I found a cat, but
How you doing, Tank?
he was sad because he wanted to come inside. So that's
Oh.
why I'm letting him in.
Do you know that there are a million people watching you right now?
Yes. Did you tell that to Dada?
No, why don't you go tell Daddy? Sorry about that. Perfect timing, hey?
No, we love children. It is, especially now that I'm grandpa age. I love it when they go home.
I can imagine.
Yeah, you have a good looking son.
Thank you.
So tell us about the book, and you've been writing it since you were 12.
Yeah, so I started writing it since I was 12 and I never gave up on the series. Well, I have books planned out, but I've been focusing on number 1 and it's kind of just matured with me. And then I got it published last year. I really wanted to take my time in planning it because I wanted to feel that it was at its peak, at the very best that it could be before publication.
Oh, but very good. How many rewrites did you go through?
Oh, a lot. It matured with me. So, and I'm also dyslexic. So, thank heavens to my editors. They're like, I don't know, saints because of how sad it was when they first got it.
Well, it's not sad, but you were writing in your own unique style.
Yes, you could say that.
And so the whole process was now, okay, when you were 12 years old, did you think of this story, or was there some people that were involved with getting you kind of the basic idea that then you went off the deep
So
end? No, I'm
so what happened was is I had next door neighbors that immigrated to Canada from Germany, and they lived their life during World War II. They're no longer with us now, but they shared tons of war stories with me. And as a child, it fascinated me. So I just researched and interviewed tons of older veterans and whatnot about World War II. And I learned quite a bit of facts and stuff about it. No, Tanky, out of here, sweetie. Sorry.
Get the cat.
Okay, I won't let Celeste get the cat. Sorry.
but that's quite all right. It's
When Celeste tries to get it, I'll go like this.
No, that's fine. Tanky, I need you out because mommy's doing something really important right now, okay?
I'll turn down the volume.
No, you turn off the volume. Thank you.
have you ever heard the expression that actors would say, "Never work with animals and kids"?
Yeah.
That's why. But that's okay. See, and that's why I do these shows. They're like doing them live, and because it's real life. It's real life, and he's a great kid. He loves his mom, and he loves the attention that the cat gives him and stuff. So, that's really cool. So, but getting back to why we're here. The story is that there were some old folks. Now, did they tell the story from Germany's point of view or from the Allies' point of view?
It is told the main protagonist is in Nazi Germany. She lives there. Out, please, sweetie.
I saw something and it says your name and it says come here.
No, that's mommy texting daddy to come get you.
And by the way, you need to save this for when he's 20 and he's got a young girl that he's trying to impress.
Oh,
And
I will play it for him at his wedding. Be like, remember this? So, anyways, the protagonist is from Nazi Germany. And it's just from her perspective and what it's like growing up at that time, full of indoctrination, full of, I guess, fear and what was happening within the walls, the secrets you could say that were going on.
yeah. Now, were they any particular religious background? Were they like Jewish or anything? Or
No, so they are German. The father's German, the mother was from England. So they were, I guess you could say, kind of slandered around because the mother, being from England, is from the enemy territory.
exactly, exactly. So now they had lots of stories that they told you about just everyday life in what it was like in Germany prior to, I assume, prior to World War II, or in the early stages. The late stages were pretty horrific for people in Germany.
Oh, it was. It was crazy. Like, people don't realize, we're taught a little bit about World War II in school, but the depth, there's so much more depth that we're not taught. That's pretty crazy. Like, it was normal for kids to encounter corpse on the street, and they would even play with the corpses on the street because they were so
Ew.
desensitized. So like it was a crazy place
Well, and
to live in and grow up in. And hey, guys, out please. Thank you. And empathy, they were even taught in school that empathy was a sign of weakness.
yeah,
So.
they would, because they were the Third Reich, which was they were going to be 1,000-year reign, and it was all going to be the purity of the German race. And so German Jews were not allowed. Polish people. And you got to remember, Germany was right in the middle of Europe, so they had lots of different ethnic backgrounds and a lot of different stuff. But it was the purity of the Aryan race that they were interested in. So it would have been very horrific to live in that period of time.
Well, it was awful. And like, we don't realize how good we have it, you know? And that's why I love mixing history with fantasy because, you know, if we don't recognize patterns from our history, we're going to repeat them. You know, if we're just ignorant and be like, oh, we don't need to know that, to me, that's ignorant.
Yep, and it will be over and over and over again that we'll repeat them. And so that's we don't really want to do that. And and just to bring your point home about some of the stories that happened in Germany during World War II. Are you familiar with the Dresden bombing?
Am I familiar? Can you repeat that with what?
With the Dresden bombing?
A little bit, yep.
That 40,000 people were killed in that bombing raid. That's inconceivable.
It's sad.
Yes, it really is. But the cool thing is, so you got the information from these older folks. And by the way, thank you for sitting down and talking to older people. A lot of us older folks, kids today, they don't sit there and talk to us.
It's sad. But no, there's actually a lot of diamonds in the rough, meaning there's a lot of information and important things by sitting down and interviewing these people, like especially these older folks. You know, it's good to know because most of the people I've interviewed for my book, they're all passed on now. They're all gone. So, and that knowledge is very valuable.
Well, and exactly. And of course, World War II happened 60, 80 years ago now. And so that was then, yeah. So people that you had to be very young to still be around if you were alive when World War II happened.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it very difficult. But at the same time, you took it and you made a fantasy out of it. How'd you do that?
So yeah, what I noticed is, like I was saying before, how important history is. There are patterns that I noticed within the war, and I just implemented it in the fantasy kind of world. So I guess the best description is kind of like my editor related it to Narnia. She says it's not exactly like Narnia, but there's elements that are similar. Like the kids and the siblings transitioning into kind of fantasy like world is very similar. So they said it's like a mixture between Narnia and Hunger Games because there are violence. There's because it's the middle of war, right? So there are some gruesome and violent things. So it's like a mixture between Narnia and Hunger Games. But I just implemented that pattern that I noticed within World War II in the fantasy world as well.
Interesting. So, has anybody come to you to make the book into a movie yet?
I hope one day, because at one point when I was around 18, 19, I had a cast of voice actors for it. There was over 100 people voice acting for it, and it was really intense. It was really nice. Unfortunately, I can't use those recordings because it's been updated since then. The story has really evolved since that time.
Oh, that's too bad.
I know.
So now you're gonna have to re-record the whole thing.
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, maybe somebody's going to come along and they're going to read the book and they're going to decide that, hey, this would make a great movie, a great fantasy. Because right now that's a rage, isn't it?
Well, right now The really popular rage right now is romance and kind of horror. That's the big rage.
Well, good. And so, hey, so that means you should write a romantic horror book.
I guess so, right? A
I'm going to
romantic
kiss you,
horror
and then I'm going to anyway.
and kill you. Yep.
Exactly. By the way, we're talking with Steffanie Costigan, and she's the author of the book is
Land of the Dragon.
Land of the Dragon. When we come back, we're going to talk about dragons and how they evolved for her over time, and do they really breathe as fire? We need to take a break, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Positive Talk Radio. We're going to take a short break to tell you audio and music creators about our commercial affiliate, Lyric Vids, specializing in creating amazing and engaging lyric videos. Are you looking to promote your videos in the most engaging way, but you don't have an animator and an editor? Whether you're an artist, musician, or business with a message to share, our lyric videos are designed to hook viewers and amplify your reach. Go to positivetalkradio.net/lyric vids. That's positivetalkradio.net/LYRICVIDS now to get started. Welcome back to Positive Talk Radio. We hope you enjoyed learning about our affiliate Lyric Vids, who specialize in creating captivating animated lyric videos. Now let's get back to the show.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Boy, Steffanie, you were just kind of waiting for that song to end, weren't you? It was like, gee, this is taking forever. What are we going to do?
I was more like, oh, interesting. Interesting song. Interesting choice.
Interesting choice on my part, because I like to wake people up at the beginning part just in case they had fallen asleep behind the wheel, and we don't want them to do that. So we want them to be there. So let's talk about dragons. I've watched some movies around dragons. One movie had Sean Connery in it. I don't know if you know that one. But so tell us your version of dragon and when you and how it evolved from when you were 12 to when the book was published.
So when I was 12, I guess you were saying the idea of Land of the Dragon. I had dreams about the story. So that's kind of how I developed some of the scenes, is through my dreams, and also daydreaming during school when I was bored to tears while listening to, I guess, a lecture or whatever. But I remember, being dyslexic. I did not do very well in school. I even had teachers slap me because I couldn't read. But I remember, like, one time after a teacher kind of slapped me and it made me feel embarrassed in front of the classroom. I felt so upset, and I think it was like a mechanism to kind of comfort me or help me to overcome that. Is I used to sit there and daydream, probably just sit there glaring at the teacher, daydreaming. I'm like, wonder how she would feel if I turned into a dragon right now. So just things like that. And it just played into my book because, like, in my book, it's, the typical dragon, and there was dragon riders, but the dragon and the dragon rider merged their souls, creating these kind of hybrid dragons that could turn, like a human could turn into a dragon.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, so that's kind of like Land of the Dragon. The people of Land of the Dragon, my story, they're just normal people, and it startles the protagonist when, they turn into a dragon.
You think? Yeah, that probably would bother you, wouldn't it? It's like, weren't you just Joe and now you're a dragon?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so that's the big, I guess, kind of plot twist, you could say. Well, not that big of a plot twist, but like it's intriguing.
So were the dragons people that had been victimized by the protagonist, or was it just a defense mechanism?
Yeah, it's like how they defend themselves. It's you can say a part of their people, their culture, their race is they can turn into dragons. They look like ordinary everyday people, but on whenever on their command they turn into dragons.
On their command, so it's not like they got bit by a dragon, then they could be a dragon?
No, no. It was a whole process. Like it explains a bit about it in the story, but basically there are ways that these people that can turn into dragons that they can transfer their power to an ordinary human, but it's very, very risky.
Oh. So do these dragons breathe fire?
Yeah, they do actually. They can breathe fire.
Wow. So they are from the imagination of Steffanie comes a fire-breathing dragon that can barbecue the protagonist.
Well, yeah, you could say that.
And and so that I'm intrigued by the fact that you started writing this when you were 12, and you finished writing it when you were 28.
30. Yeah, well, I got it published last year, so 31.
So how long did it sit on a shelf in between you writing it and rewriting it, and then, I don't know, rewriting it again?
Well, like I said, the reason I kept rewriting it is because I matured. The book matured with me, writing it from a 12-year-old and then into adulthood. I just kept maturing it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that makes perfect sense. That if your characters become more complex, and because the feelings about them change, or your understanding of how they may be feeling about a particular situation might change, and all that kind of stuff. I'm just intrigued by the fact that that's a friggin' long time to be writing the same book.
Oh, it is, but, like, I think that's the thing, though, what I've noticed is nowadays we're so used to a quick story, stories get pushed out so quickly that there's tons of plot holes and there's tons of challenges to the story. When you take your time to do a story and it's well planned out and well thought out, um, it it becomes really good. Like, I think we need more stories that aren't just pushed out and just not well thought out, because that's when fans and whatnot get disappointed. There's brilliant stories out there, but I find as they go further in the series, it starts to become not as interesting or not as brilliant as the first one, and it's because they're pushing it out too fast. They're leaving rooms for errors, right? And also, what drives me bonkers is characters that make choices that are out of their character to move along the story. That drives me absolutely insane.
So you fix that as you went along.
So, yeah, my strategy for writing my characters is, I don't know if you've heard of the 16 personality test.
I have not. Explain that to us.
There's a 16 personality test. It's a really well-established test. If you just Google 16 personality test, it's amazing. Like, there's all these categories, just very well designed. So I went to that test. I researched about all the personalities, and then each of my characters I placed under a particular personality. So then I went and read up on their strengths and weaknesses and their decision making and why it's like that, so that they could stay consistent. Like, the choices that the characters make are consistent with their personality. It's not just to move along the story.
Well, so basically, and I was going to ask you about this. As a matter of fact, why don't we I've got to go for a break at halftime here, which is a station break, and we're just going to be gone a minute. But when we come back, I want to ask you about what your process is, because it seems to me I've talked to a lot of writers. Everybody's got a little bit different process that they use on how they put the story together and character development and all of those things. So again, we're talking with Steffanie Costigan, and go to landofthedragon.ca and find out all about her, the book. I'll bet you could even buy it from there. That would be my guess. So we need to take obviously this little break, and we will be right back. Please don't go anywhere. It's just a minute and 10 seconds.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Steffanie is here. She's an author, and she is a dragon person, and she talks about dragons. She writes about dragons. And I wanted to ask you now, do your dragons, and I want to ask you all about the process. Do your dragons have personality? Do they speak? Do they talk like when they were human? How does that all work?
So the dragon's soul is merged with the human soul, and they speak. And it's like a mixture between the human voice and the dragon voice. So it's almost like you're hearing two voices at the same time.
Oh, wow. Now, who wins the argument when they have an argument amongst themselves?
I don't think they do.
Because then it would be like, no, I don't. Yes, you do. No, I don't. Yes, you do. Anyway. And in developing the story, and you're developing the characters, did the characters come first and you kind of made them three-dimensional and then place them into the story? Is that how that worked?
Well, I think the characters were created first. Well, it's hard to say. Well, they're kind of created in the middle, meaning the plot was created and the characters created around the same time, to kind of complement each other, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And but in order for you to continue with the story, did certain characters have certain characteristics that you were planning on using in the course of the story for different purposes?
So because I've been developing this since I was 12, the characters have so much depth, meaning there are so much backstory that we don't even know about in the first book. And I'm even thinking about doing a prequel like before that to explain some of the backstory. The story is written in first person perspective, so we only know what the person knows. So you can tell though when the characters are talking, there's friendships that were established previously before it came into the characters understanding the protagonist. And you can tell there's arguments that were existing before. But as you hear, I guess, through the first person's perspective of them arguing, you kind of piece together, okay, this person and this person have a strong bond and there's something going on here.
Gotcha. And did you then have to kind of put that together as to and go down that road as far as developing the story, as far as what that relationship was going to be between those two.
Exactly. Like there's tons of backstories. Like my characters aren't just placed there for convenience. Like everybody's connected. It's like roots on a tree or something. Everything's connected, and there's so much backstory that we don't know about, but we get a little bit of hints throughout the story of what's going on through perspectives. So it changes between three people's perspective, and it's told in first person perspective. So we get to hear from Eleanor, who's the girl that grew up in Nazi Germany. We get to hear from the main protagonist, my male protagonist, who's in the fantasy world, and that's Andrew. And then we hear from the main protagonist's younger sister, Tara.
Oh wow! And so these pictures that I'm looking at really are AI.
Well, some of them are based off of my drawings, but yeah, Wallaby Design, they grabbed some of my illustration and AI'd them. I don't know what to say.
They digitize them basically,
Yeah.
and that's pretty remarkable because that looks like if you were younger, would you want to date Andrew?
Uh, funny you should ask that. I get pretty much married Andrew, so
Oh, that's what your husband. Okay, gotcha. Gotcha. So, well, I didn't know I was going to fall right into that. Um, so are you? What's the next book going to be? A prequel or a sequel? What are you going to do?
I'm doing a sequel. Eventually, I would like to do a prequel because I know there's a lot of people that are like, they can tell there's more backstory to certain characters, and they're like, I really want to know more about this character because we get little hints and stuff, but there's a whole big story behind it.
If you were to, without giving away the plot, if you were to say what is the overarching message of the story, if there is one, as an example, in Star Wars, it was the Force, was
Mhm.
the overall underlying message of kind of a spiritual force kind of thing. Do you have one of those?
I do. My basically message behind it all is basically it doesn't matter what nation you're from. If you don't know your nation's identity and history, then that nation can easily be manipulated.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. Are you aware of the difference between World War One and World War Two?
I haven't researched a lot about World War One, to be honest. I've been mainly focusing on World War Two.
Well, because this goes, you'll see, this goes right into what you're talking about, which is how one thing, if it's not well understood, it can lead to another thing. And in this particular case, World War One, the rumor was established that the Jewish people were mostly responsible for losing the war, and also Europe was responsible because they took away all the weapons that the Germans had. And so this guy comes along with this skinny little mustache, and he tries to reestablish the German people and the Third Reich by rebuilding their weapons and by blaming certain people for certain things that happened at the end of World War One and stuff. And so, because people were not really cognizant of the history behind it, they blindly accepted a lot of the things that he talked about and that came forward. And some of it was not, well, a lot of it wasn't true, but nobody was there to say, hey, that's not true, because he had enough power where he could effectively shut them up.
Well,
And so,
that's it. It's actually surprising how many people behind the scenes tried to do that, like, to highlight things or point things out, but they were executed really quickly.
it's because it doesn't serve the
The purpose.
dictator
Exactly.
if you've got people that you are allowing to wander around saying, "By the way, do you know he's nuts?" Um, so they don't like that kind of editorial opinion. So those people just magically kind of disappear, and then sometimes they make up a story about why they're gone, and sometimes they don't.
Exactly. No, it's quite scary, like, a lot of even Nazis that were kinda, you could say, double agents, some of their families, they would, take a box when they're caught. They would take a box to their family, and it would be the ashes of that person.
Yep, yep. That was World War II area, and I'm kind of glad you picked that. Being a bit of a historian myself, that was one of the most horrific moments in time in human history on a
It's
whole bunch of
awful.
different levels.
It's awful. And if you look it up, there's documents way back of like after the aftermath of with the war and the rubble, there are were like kids like wild almost like wild animals, kids living in colonies among this rubbish. Like
Yeah.
it was so sad. It was absolutely awful, awful time.
Well, and especially with the kids, um, a lot of their parents had been killed.
Mhm.
Especially the dads were most of them were impressed into service, and a lot of them were killed, and then there was nobody to take care of the kids. There was no social services, there was no
Mhm.
welfare, there was no food stamps, there was none of that, and the kids had to survive on their own.
And it was crazy, like, how, like, even radio, there were only, I believe, 3 stations they were allowed to listen to. If you were caught listening to any other station, you were put to death. Like, it was extremely serious, and I have Easter eggs throughout my book of, like, some heroes that aren't well known, like, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Huguenot group? Um,
I haven't.
Oh, see, most people don't know about this group of teenagers. There were 3 of them, and the one that was doing the writing against Hitler, he was so smart, like, he was a very intelligent boy. He was using Shakespeare and all this stuff within his writing to inspire kind of like an uproar against Hitler, and they were so confused when they caught these teenage boys. I think the youngest was, like, 16. There was a 16, 17, and 18-year-old that were handing out these flyers really private like. And I have Easter eggs and that kinda hidden within the story, but it was really sad. This 18-year-old was tried as an adult and he was beheaded. He was put to death.
Very quickly, I might add too. There wasn't much of a chance of parole or a trying to get an appeal or anything like that.
No.
It was when they did it, yeah, it was that was what they did. It's I'm glad you did the research that you did on it, and it also, now, correct me if I'm wrong, but it also has relevance to today. The book that you wrote about World War II. Am I close?
Yeah, like I'm saying, there's patterns in war that we're repeating. There's patterns that if you pay attention to, you'll see that we're repeating it. And there's ways to stop it. And that's kind of what the protagonists, the female and male protagonists are trying to do is and they fail quite a bit throughout the book. You know, there's a lot of times where they fail, but they're learning because, there are ways to stop a war, but it's not easy.
No, it never is. And they tried to stop World War II on several of occasions by assassinating Hitler, and they failed, and it just continued on. It just continued on until it couldn't continue anymore, and stuff. By the way, we're talking with Steffanie, and her last name is Costigan, and Land of the Dinosaur, geez, Land of the Dragon.ca. Go there, and you can and you can see her husband. He's right there. He really is a cute kid. So yeah, we need to take one more quick break, and we'll be right back and talking more with Steffanie. So stay with us.
They have your eyes. They have your ears. They have your smile. Now all they need is a little more of your time. Make a difference in your child's life, because anyone can be a father. It takes time to be a dad.
And welcome back to Positive Talk. That I play that commercial because I think that dads need to be very involved in children's lives and working with them day to day. And I want to thank your husband, by the way, for saving us from your child.
Yeah, thanks.
For those that missed the early part of the show, he wanted to be the star of the show, which is fine. And so he came in on several occasions, but it was fun. But Dad came in and saved the day. So what are you going to do now? You're writing the sequel. Have you developed like a series of sequels? Is it going to be like, how many books are in the series that are going to be about dragons?
So I have 5 books that are already written. I just have to go through them and re-detail them and mature some of them. There could technically be 7 if I wanted to, but we'll see how we go. But yeah, I have everything kind of planned out. So that's what I'm doing with book 2 is I'm just trying to go through it and add a little more detail and just mature it a little more.
Your publisher must be real pleased with you.
Well, I think so. I hope so.
Well, because 5 more books in the series.
Mhm.
Oh wow! And so, are you going to progress beyond World War II and follow human history as it goes along?
Well, book 2 is more about we learn a lot about the past of Eleanor Kuhn, and her siblings being from Nazi Germany, but the main protagonist, Andrew, the male, he's a little bit more of a mystery. Like we hear a little bit about him. We don't know much about his past. So book 2 is more about his history and where he came from. Because he's not originally from Land of the Dragon either.
Ah, now help me here. Does Germany is there a space where the dragons live, or are they taking over where the humans live?
So it's like just like there's Germany, it's like a shadow or an echo, you can say, of Germany, Land of the Dragon. Like the map of Land of the Dragon um, was built off of Germany's map.
Ah,
So it's like there's a wall, there's like a veil or a wall that keeps the human world away from this fantasy-like world. But when the fantasy world is at war, the land is sick, and the wall weakens and allows um, flashes or allows some of the human world to enter in a little bit.
oh. Now, do the dragons have a war with each other?
Yeah. Well, the dragons are at war, not with each other, but with some other, you could say, mythical creatures.
Oh, that would make a very interesting movie.
Yeah. So
Yeah. So now, have you ever have you ever tried screenwriting?
I have. I taken courses on it, so I know exactly how to screenwrite.
Perfect, because you know what I get told from people, from authors, that when we talk about them selling the rights to their book, they say, well, there's a good thing and a bad thing. And then the good thing is you sell the rights and your book's going to get made. The bad thing is you lose total control over what's in the book.
Mm. Nope.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, but I don't think I would want that to happen.
Well, then I want you to make like a ton of money and to produce the movie yourself.
Right? One day,
One
maybe.
day that would be really, really super good.
Amazing.
Yes, indeed. So when do you have to go home?
Oh, from the US?
Yes.
In a week.
How do you like it down here?
Oh, I like it. Yeah. I think it's fun. It's a little crazy with the driving, but
Where are you exactly? Not exactly, but
I'm
give
in
me.
I'm
Oh,
currently
that's
living
right,
in
Salt Lake
Salt
City.
Lake. Yeah.
That was so long ago, I forgot. That's what happens when you get old. So yeah, no, that now, are you driving home or flying home?
Driving, we drove here, it was crazy. It was
Hey,
like a 12-hour drive with, 4 kids, and as you can imagine, that was fun.
4 kids, a lot of tranquilizers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they were very grumpy by the time we got here.
What ages?
I have an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old was the one that was visiting here, taking the spotlight. And then I have a 3-year-old, and I just had a new baby.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Are you sleeping through the night yet?
Um,
Oh,
there
apparently
are
not.
good and bad nights.
Yeah, I remember those bad nights. But your husband, being the cool dad that he is, I'm sure steps in so you can get some rest.
Oh, he's amazing. He I feel bad for him. He takes a lot of the hit, and I'm like, "Why didn't you wake me?" And he's like, "'Cause you look so peaceful."
Well, normally moms are, you sleep very lightly with babies around, because if they start to cry, you wake up.
Oh, he doesn't even let the baby cry. He just gets up, feeds the baby, and I'm like, "Why didn't you wake me?" And he's like, "'Cause you look so peaceful." I'm like, "I'm the mother. It's my duty."
No, not anymore. It's a much more of a communal thing these days, because everybody works and everybody gets tired and stuff. And in the olden days, now the big thing is, does he change diapers?
Mhm.
He does.
Yep, he changes diapers. He's a good man. Like I said, he's very supportive.
I changed diapers too, until there would be, if the child ate something that they really shouldn't have eaten, and there was this, and the stench was beyond, then it was then that I had to seek reinforcements, like, help, I can't do this. Um so you know how that goes. So you have 4 children?
Mhm.
Are you planning on more?
That was our last. We're good. We have 2 boys and 2 girls. We're quite happy. It was just perfect.
Oh, good, they can marry each other. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow.
No, so the 2 boys, 2 girls. Who's the oldest?
Andrew.
Oh, perfect. He does look older. No, this is not that's not the Andrew we're talking about is what, 12?
Oh, the Andrew we're talking about, my child, he's 8.
Ah, Yeah. So, you're going to have you're going to have a lot of soccer and baseball
Oh, we
and
do. We have, yep.
already.
Yeah, no, we started him young at like 5 or 4.
So now, my niece, they didn't used to have it like this, but my niece and her daughter and the family, they all go to the games, and she plays baseball and soccer and all this, and they form a community of the team, of the parents and stuff. Does that happen to you?
Like, not really. I think we just stick to ourselves. I think Americans are a little more outgoing. They're like, "Hey, how's it going?" Canadians were more like, "Hey, just keep to ourselves."
See you later. Have a nice day.
Yeah, pretty much. It's sad.
Well, I would like to thank you for being here, and I wish you tons of luck with the book and the next book and the next book and the next book, yeah, and so forth and so on. Because you're going to be good. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we go?
Just, that for fantasy lovers, take a read. It's available on Amazon, Ingram Sparks. You can get it on my website, Google Play Books, Kobo, whatever. It's all over the place.
Go to her website and buy it there because she makes a little bit more money that way. Is that true?
No.
Oh.
It just
Well, then I don't care where you buy it. Just buy it.
It just links them straight to Amazon.
Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha. Well, you're too busy to be wrapping up books and sending them
Well,
off.
if someone sends me an email and asks, "Hey, can I get a book personally from you and with your whatever signature?" I do it.
Good for you. Good for you. And that's good for them to know. So just go to our website and they can get a hold of you from the website, right?
Mm-hmm.
Landofthedragon.ca. And I'd like again to thank Steffanie for being here. Steffanie Costigan, and you're adorable, and your kid, and I'll bet you your grandparents are happy when you go home, or your parents are happy when you guys go home.
Oh, they will be. Yep.
Oh, all righty. Well, you have a great day, and thanks again for hanging out with me for a little while.
Oh, yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, wait right there. I'll be right back. Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin at KM